The following is a local resident producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Eye on Oshkosh. I'm Cheryl Hance and want to welcome our guests here this evening. A number of years ago, we did a program on foster care, and a lot of people, felt that that was a really good program, and I thought, let's take a little break from our political interviews and do something, I don't want to say more fun because I don't want to insult politicians, but we're just going to do something a little bit different tonight. So we're going to do another show on foster care. Joining us tonight, I'd like you to welcome Lisa Jensen to my left. She is the foster care coordinator with the Winnebago County Department of Human Services. And to my right is Chantel Ruck. She is a foster care parent, and she's going to tell us all about her experiences with the foster care program, why she got into foster care, and the types of kids and ages and so forth that she's been taking care of. So welcome to you both. We appreciate your being here.
Thank
you. I think we're going to start with you, Lisa, because we got to get into the meat of all this. So let's talk about what foster care really is. And who is foster care for when it comes to children who are in the program?
Okay, foster care is a program that provides care to children who are not able to safely reside with their parents or with relatives. The county receives referrals and regarding children who have either been abused or neglected or for some reason are not safe in their home. And then we assess that situation, and kids are removed either sometimes on an emergency basis, or they are already working with us and they are not able to be safely managed in their home. Mm-hmm. And we get those kids and we try and match them with a home that can keep them safe and meet their needs until they can be safely returned to their parents.
Okay, so parents, because I think a lot of people, and I know years and years ago, I felt that the kids in foster care were bad kids, kids who were troubled in some way, kids who maybe had slipped through the cracks at school and just couldn't attend school, kids who were maybe in trouble with the law. And, as I've gotten a little bit older, I've learned that is really a rare kind of occurrence. It's usually parents who have problems of some sort, whether it's drugs or, I don't know, maybe you can enlighten us as to what some of the other problems might be, but it really is more about the kids not being able to be in a safe environment because of things their parents have experienced or are experiencing. Is that true?
There's a wide variety of reasons why children come into foster care. And no, all of the children are not what you're describing as troubled. And, it is a trauma for all children to be removed from their home and what they know and placed in a home of a stranger. And that is why we do look for relatives or people who they know first to care for them. So when they're going into foster care and they are unaware of the people that they're going to be living with, that is a trauma for them. So all kids coming into foster care have dealt with some sort of trauma, whether it is something that stemmed from something their parents have done or a different situation in their home. So So kids come, they're all, all different. There is some kids who have no behaviors whatsoever coming into foster care. There's other kids who, because of their situation they've been in, do have some difficult behaviors.
Okay.
So it's definitely a wide range of children coming into care. We do also, kids who are coming into foster care are also coming into foster care through the delinquency system. So there are times when a child is not safe in their home, but due to their behaviors, and not necessarily the parents, but the parents aren't able to manage them safely in their home.
Okay. And I'm sure that when someone is contemplating becoming a foster parent, you let them know what the situation is with any child that you are considering placing in their home, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So before we make a placement decision, we contact the home and give them as much information as we know about the child. And they are always able to say no if they don't feel like they are the best placement for that child. But we give them as much information as possible so that they can make that decision if they feel like they
But you
can
do
handle
go
those
to
behaviors.
family members first, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever the case may be. You try
Correct.
to reach out to them first?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We make that initial effort when we go to the home and feel that and believe the children are unsafe, and we will ask the parents if they have any family members they feel are appropriate, and
Okay.
we will contact them first. And then we also license people who are not necessarily, they're not relatives, but they are close family friends, or they are people that the child is familiar with, and we license them as a foster home, just child specific.
Okay.
And they agree to be licensed and go through that process so they can care for
Okay.
that child.
Well, let me switch over to Chantel for a minute. I didn't anticipate going to you quite this early, but that brought up a question in my mind. And certainly a little bit later on, we're going to get into the specifics of your foster care your foster care. But, what is your situation like? Are you a relative of a foster care child or children that you currently have or have had in the past?
No, we don't have any children that we have even known prior to them being placed in our home. So no, we're not relatives to any of the children.
And so while it's, kind of a traumatic experience for the kids to get to know someone brand new and go live in their home, it's a big adjustment for you as well, isn't it?
Sure. In fact, I would say that that's probably the biggest, the biggest job that both my husband and I have is not taking the place of the foster child's home, but just becoming a second home for them, and then, giving them the grace to be able to become acclimated, learn our rules. I mean, everything's brand new to them, and Lisa said it, we're strangers. For all they know, we're the stereotypical foster parent who's mean and isn't going to want to be with them and is just in it for the money.
Let's talk about that. Not so much, I want to get into the money, but, you brought up, Chantel, about the stereotype of a foster parent being mean and crotchety. Where did that ever come from? I mean, did that start because maybe there were, in fact, foster care parents who were that way? Or do you know?
I don't know. I guess that, in the news, you hear about all the bad stuff that happens. And,
Yes.
I think that when people see something in the news that maybe had happened in a foster home or with foster parents, that's what their perception ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that maybe is an idea of why they have a bad reputation. But I think that, I feel like that has evolved over time, and I don't necessarily hear that as much as I think in the past that
Yeah.
that people have made that that insinuation that they, yes, are just taking them in for the money.
It's kind of like the wicked old stepmother in Cinderella, you know. So all stepmothers have a bad rap, you know.
Yes.
Or mother-in-laws, you know. I love my mother-in-law.
Well, there can be some, I'm sure.
in any situation, you have a people group, and
That's
there's
right.
always
That's right. Do you know, you're married. You mentioned that you and your husband are doing this.
Sure.
Do you have to be married in order to be a foster parent?
Absolutely not. We have many foster parents who are single or that are living as a couple but are not married. And then we have our married couples. So, no, you absolutely do not need to be married to be a foster parent.
Okay. I'm going to get into a slight political question here. Single, married, of course, same-sex marriage is, you know, becoming very prevalent across the country. Can same-sex partners, if you will, or domestic partners, can they be foster parents?
Absolutely, and we have licensed a number of same-sex couples who are currently licensed with us and have been licensed with us in the past, so absolutely.
Let me delve into that a little bit further, because one of the things that, you know, you hear all the time is, oh, gay couples shouldn't have children, they shouldn't be allowed to adopt children. I'm sure in a case like this, oh, they shouldn't have foster children because they're going to recruit these kids and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Tell us from your perspective what your experience has been with same-sex couples.
I actually have not had a bad experience with same-sex couples and, you know, that integration of the child into their home and how the biological family has felt about that. Every situation can be different, so you never know how that family is going to react. But so far, it has been a great experience for our county.
And no one's recruited any children, and no one's gotten a free toaster for recruiting X number of people into the gay lifestyle, correct?
Absolutely
okay.
not.
Very good. Very good. Foster kids being adopted. I personally know of someone who has adopted 2 of the foster children that they have. And it's not here, it's out east in Tennessee. But, you know, every foster child who's in the system is not waiting to be adopted, correct?
Correct.
And yet there are some.
There are children who are waiting to be adopted, but those are children who have the rights have already been terminated on by the courts, and they are then involved with the state. And so the state is looking for pre-adoptive homes. So those are the children that are waiting to be adopted. The children in our foster homes who have been in foster care for, you know, a period of time, there is that chance that there could be a termination of parental rights and that child could be adopted. But the goal of foster care is for reunification with the family.
Okay.
And at this point, the statistics are still on the likelihood of a child is going to be returned home than a child is going to be adopted through foster care.
So if a child is in foster care and for whatever reason then their the parents' parental rights are terminated, then do you work with the parents, the foster parents, to help facilitate that adoption if they want to move into that next step, or do they then have to work with someone from the state?
What happens is when a termination of parental rights is filed with the courts, then we also send a referral to the state so that they are aware that a termination of parental rights has been filed. And then at times the foster parents are willing and able to adopt that child and are going to proceed with that route, or then there's times when there are the foster parents that are not in foster care to adopt, that is not something that they feel is best for their family. And then the kids are, the state starts looking for a pre-adoptive home for them.
All right. How long typically can kids remain in foster care in a foster care home?
They can be in foster care for 1 day. They can be in foster care for 2-3 years. It really depends on what is happening with the family situation. So there is, after 15 out of 22 months of being in foster care, that is grounds for termination of parental rights. However, parental rights are not always, that termination is not always filed at that time depending on the family situation. So we exhaust all services and all opportunities for that family to be able to have that child reunified with them.
Okay.
Termination of parental rights is absolutely a last resort for when families are not able to have their child reunified with them.
What kinds of things would constitute or precipitate, them losing their parental rights?
When a child is placed in foster care, the parents receive conditions for return of their child. And not meeting those conditions for return, which would end up entailing that they are not able to keep their child safe in their home.
Okay.
So by not meeting those conditions, then that would be grounds for termination of parental rights.
Or, and I'm sure that this is, I'm sure that this is one of the conditions that they have to meet to stay out of prison or jail. But if they are, and I see it a lot because my partner works for corrections, and you see parents all the time. Both parents are in the system. So obviously, if they're in the system, they can't care for their kids. So would that, mean a termination of parental rights?
It really depends on the situation.
Okay.
It is not a definite that their rights will be terminated.
It
Absolutely
could, though,
no.
depending on what they're in for and how long?
Correct, but it really depends on that situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, okay. All right. Can foster parents work outside the home?
absolutely. And
Because this isn't about making money. This isn't to be in lieu of some other job, right?
correct.
Okay.
Foster parents need to be financially stable
Okay.
in order to be licensed as a foster parent. So foster parents absolutely can work, and the children go to daycare when the children are, or when the foster parents are working, and so we work with that. Absolutely, foster parents can work, and
are encouraged to do so, right?
well, they're encouraged to be financially stable.
There you
So
go.
depending what that means, it's different for every family.
Unless they're trust fund babies, they probably have to be out there working like the rest of us. How does a foster family or foster parent pay for things like clothing, food, shelter of any kind? How do you pay for those things?
When kids are initially placed in foster care, there is a clothing allowance. It's an initial one-time clothing allowance that they're able to get. The amount depends on the age of the child. And then every month, foster parents receive a monthly stipend to care for the child. And that monthly stipend is broken down to, there's a basic rate that the state has developed through percentages of living expenses, that the basic rate is different for each age of the child. It's broken down into age groups. And then there is a supplemental payment that is developed through what's called a CANS assessment on each child. It's an assessment that looks at the child's needs and strengths. And through that assessment, then a supplemental payment is developed. There's also something called an exceptional payment, which can be added if there's any kind of exceptional needs that the child has, any exceptional expenses that the foster parents will have that are not built into the CANS assessment or that basic rate.
Okay. Now, are you saying CANS assessment, like CANS?
Child Adolescent Needs Assessment,
Thank you.
CANS. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's all right. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, it's a Child Adolescent Needs Assessment.
Okay.
So
All right.
that is done on every child who is in foster care
Okay.
or out of home placement.
Okay. All right. Is the monthly stipend and some of these other periodic payments, is that, well, let me ask you, because you're a foster parent. So, Chantel, is that realistically enough to cover everything that a child or children need in today's society with the economy the way it is? I don't want to slam the system by any means, but I want to present a true picture here. And maybe it is enough to cover it. I don't know,
Well, I guess it kind of depends on like what your standard of living is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're used to, going and buying everything name brand and your tennis shoes cost $200, and you've got a bunch of kids in the home, probably not. But, like she said, like that basic rate is for their basic necessities. And so I would say that, yes, that would take care of it. And, I don't know, every other family's out there probably like us, where you're looking to, kind of cut corners anyway. So you're looking for those coupons and you're looking for those deals and, shopping the sales. Yeah. And so I wouldn't say that you're going to have, extra money left over or anything like that. But, yeah, it does meet the child's requirements for, getting clothes on their backs and, putting food on their plates and things like that. And I'd have to say, there's social workers that watch out for the kids' needs, but each foster family is assigned a coordinator, and that coordinator, watches your family situation and kind of takes care of you. And so, they will, they'll double check and they'll check up on you on a monthly basis, if not more, and ask you, how are things going? And, they talk about finances and, are you able to do this? Is there anything extra that's happening in their lives that, requires travel? Travel is expensive, gas money, things like that. That you're taking the kids to, or, special activities that cost money. So, really between that and, our coordinator is great, watching out for us and taking care of us. But
okay, excellent. I did allude to some foster care parents that I know in another state, and some of the things that I have heard just have kind of infuriated me a little bit. And, I want to just disclaim this here. What we're talking about right here tonight on this show is relative to Winnebago County here in Wisconsin. This show is shown on YouTube, and so if you're watching this in another state, by no means is this indicative of what may be the situation in your own state. So it's important to perhaps check with your Department of Social Services or Department of Human Services, whatever it's called in your own jurisdiction, and make sure of what the situation is if you're thinking about becoming a foster care parent in another state. So I just think that that's important to say. Now, are these things the same throughout the state of Wisconsin, or again, is this just Winnebago County?
For the payment?
The payment, how you operate the system, how you check on, like the foster families having a coordinator who watches out for them. Is that all pretty much the same from county to county?
All counties have a foster care coordinator. They have their coordinator who licenses them. And the state has what's called Chapter 56, which is the rules and regulations of foster care. Okay. So all counties in the state need to abide by Chapter 56.
Okay.
So we may have some different Winnebago County policies that may be different throughout different counties, but the standards of foster care, which you need, the requirements of being a foster parent, the training hours that you need to complete in being a foster parent, those are the same throughout the state.
All right. So then I want to go back to what I was starting to say when I wanted to give my little disclaimer. These foster parents that I know in another state, and I won't say the state because I don't want to slam that state either, but they had a foster child who was nearing 18 years of age. So all of a sudden they're required, and I even questioned her on that. I said, what do you mean they're requiring this? They were required to purchase like a prom dress, purchase something for graduation from high school. Another one of their children that they're fostering has periodic visits with I believe it's the mother, the biological mother, and that is like 2 or 3 hours away. And so they're not given any extra money for any of this. And I'm hearing this and I'm thinking, how can this, with the price of gasoline, I don't know what it is out there, but, it's pricey no matter where you are. And how can a program just require this of someone and not give them any additional money? I mean, is this how the program works here? Or is this one of those things where they can get periodic special payments?
So, again, every situation's different.
Right.
But, however, in regards to the transportation expenses, when foster parents are transporting to visits, that's something that the county reimburses them for transportation to and from visits. Anything that is reimbursable through medical assistance, we do not reimburse for, and that's something that they can get reimbursed to the state for.
Okay.
But any kind of travel expenses that they incur with that are not the basic just care of the, I mean, you're not going to get reimbursed for driving them, to a Girl Scout meeting,
Right,
or to school, or
Yeah.
but something related to like a visit with their parents or something special that's not MA reimbursable, then yes,
Okay.
they do get the mileage reimbursement for that. In regards to something like a prom dress, that is something that we would have a discussion with as a coordinator if one of my foster parents came to me and said, the child in my home really wants to go to prom, but financially we're not able to afford this dress. We'd have a discussion about that. How can we make that work? Because we want the children in the home to be able to experience things that
Sure.
children who are not in foster care get to experience. So we're going to make something like that work, whether it's through their foster care payment or it's through a different way. We'll work with them
Okay.
so that that child that still gets the experiences that they would if they were placed at home.
Okay. All right.
Well, and I don't
that's
mean to
good
cut
know.
in.
No,
but
no, please.
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, I'm glad that you pointed that out. Yes, as a foster family, you're not looking for money for, I drove, little Johnny, my foster son, to their friend's house, so I should get reimbursed for that. But like you said, it's the, taking, mileage that you would get for taking them to something on a regular basis, like a parent visit, or a school district that's out of your actual
Correct.
district, things like that. So thanks for pointing that out and making that clear.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure that there are families out there too who, they just do a lot of things out of their goodness of their heart. They're not looking to turn in a mileage statement for every little thing, or maybe not for anything. I don't want to equate animals to children, but animals need fostering too, and I do a lot of work with rescue groups. Sometimes there'll be a dog transport where you've got to transport a dog from one part of the country to another, and they'll say, gas money's available. Well, not to pat myself on the back, but I've never taken gas money to do something like that. I mean, one rescue sends me a little something, a gas card at the end of the year, but I don't do it for that. And I don't submit any mileage or anything like that. I do it because I want to help the animals, and that's, I can do it, and it's a charitable thing, so I deduct it on my income taxes, and then you still don't get a lot of, a deductible expense, but at least it's there, and so you don't have to necessarily turn in anything, right?
Not necessarily.
If you want to, you can. If
Correct.
not- Okay. Do you have to own your own home to be a foster parent? I think that people tend to
no,
think that
you don't. You do not have to own your own home. You can rent.
Okay.
You can rent a home. You can rent an apartment, as long as that home is equipped to be able to have children and meet standards that are laid out in Chapter 56. That you can live in any, in an apartment, in a house, duplex, whatever.
Does a foster child have to have their own bedroom, per se, in that house or apartment?
No, they do not have to have their own bedroom. There are rules once a child reaches the age of 6 that they cannot share with an opposite sex sibling or opposite sex
Okay.
child, but they can share rooms. There are some times where children are not able to share bedrooms, but that is something that we discuss with the foster parents prior to that child being placed in their home.
Okay.
So
They
no,
have to have their
can-
own bed, though.
They have to have their own bed.
Okay, all right, but not necessarily their own bedroom. Now, you've talked about licensed foster homes. Does every foster home have to be licensed, or do you have some that are not licensed?
All of our foster homes have to be licensed
Okay.
foster homes.
All right.
When a child is placed with maybe a family friend, then there is some time that they can be in that home up to 30 days where they can be in that home, and we can start that licensing process and get them going. But they do need to be, any child who's on a court order and out-of-home placement needs to be in a licensed foster home.
And what's involved in becoming licensed? I mean, how deeply do you delve into someone's personal life and their finances? How closely do you look at the home? Do you come in with a white glove and do a white glove test? Let's dispel some of the myths here, so that people aren't shaking in their boots if they're considering this.
Yeah, no, I don't come in with my special white glove and make sure that everything is clean. There's lots and lots of paperwork that is involved with licensing. Basically, we ask questions about their history. We'll ask questions about their childhood, who raised them, what's their outlook on their childhood. How do they feel about it? What as an adult? What is their personality? How do they think of themselves? What do they think of their partner? We go into their relationship. We talk about their kids. We talk about their finances, and basically we're just looking that they're financially stable, that they're able to meet the bills of the home of their family, of their home.
So not to interrupt, but
yes.
Does that include a credit check then as well?
No, it does not.
Okay. All right.
No, they fill out a financial form, and so if there would ever be some discrepancies of what we could maybe visually see, or maybe if we thought this doesn't seem accurate, we may ask for more information. But I've not ever had that. So they just write down their income, their debts, assets is on the application, and so we just look that they're able to meet the needs of their family. We look at their home, make sure their home is structurally stable, make sure that there is enough room for foster children, that they have extra bedrooms, that there's extra space for the child. There needs to be a smoke detector in every bedroom. There needs to be a carbon monoxide detector in every level. There needs to be a railing going down any stairs. So we're looking for those types of things. And normally going into a home, it's very minimal changes, if any, that foster parents need to make.
Sure.
Typically it's maybe just adding a smoke detector here and there, or adding the carbon monoxide detectors. But typically going into homes, it's very minimal that they would need to do.
Yeah, and some of the things you mentioned, for the most part, they're state laws anyway. I mean, every house or apartment in the state has to have a smoke detector and a CO detector. So if they don't have it, they should get it anyway. So. And
another thing, we do require background checks, and part of the background check is an FBI fingerprint check. So they do need to go and get fingerprinted to become licensed, and they do need to be medically cleared also. So a doctor will sign off saying that they have the physical requirements of becoming a foster parent.
Okay. So what's a physical requirement that someone would need to be a foster parent?
That they're healthy, that they're able to meet the needs of the child and care for the child. So we've had foster parents who have had MS, and they are still able to meet the needs of the children. We've had other, health, that they have a health condition, but it doesn't affect them taking care of a child.
Okay, so like wheelchair bound, things like that. None of that would really necessarily factor into this.
No, as long as they're able to be able to care for a child, they can become a foster parent.
Okay. How long does this background check or screening process take? I mean, does it drag on for weeks, or does it happen? You're laughing, so let's talk to you about how long it took for you.
Well, when we first started the process, we were told really, if it takes a long time, it's usually because you're dragging your feet or because, the paperwork part of it, sometimes you can get a little bit, bogged down in everyday life that all of a sudden it's the end of the day and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't fill out that form. But, so that's why I was laughing. I believe that everything from start to finish, as far as paperwork goes, because, licensing isn't just, this paperwork, like she said, and being able to get into the physicals. I mean, that's another, time frame that you really don't have control over. It's your office, your doctor's office. But I think it was about 2.5 months for us, which was really quick when you consider you're going to be taking, somebody's, children. I mean, but then there also are other requirements. I'm sure you're going to say too, that just some classes and things to keep or to help you really as a foster parent meet the needs of these children. Again, you had said it before, Lisa, but they teach you that the biggest trauma that kids will go through is being taken out of their home. I mean, it has to be done at times.
Sure. So, you license them, and how long does that license last for? And what would cause a home to lose their licensure?
A license is good for 2 years.
Okay.
And the only reason somebody would lose their licensure is because they have done something to either not keep that child safe, that they're not following the regulations of Chapter 56. So this is something that happens very rarely, that a license is revoked. And but if they are doing something to harm that child or not keeping that child safe or not following the regulations of Chapter 56, that is a way that, if they're not doing those things, that a license could be revoked.
Okay. All right. We talked a little bit before about, the stipend and, covering food, clothing, shelter, that kind of thing. The big thing that we didn't touch on is medical care. And that's expensive for all of us. I don't care who we are. I don't care what our health status is. Who pays for health care for these children? Do they get a separate stipend for that? Is that supposed to come out of the stipend that they get? Or who covers the health care for these kids?
All of the children who come into foster care receive Badger Care.
Oh, they do? Okay.
So all of their medical needs are covered through Badger Care. And so there is no expense to the foster parents in regards to medical expenses.
Okay. And Badger Care, for those who aren't aware of it, is our state's version of, I believe it's Title 19 Medicaid, correct? Okay. All right, good. Okay, so no matter what their health status is, if they've got no problems or they've got really severe health problems or emotional difficulties, things are covered. If they need counseling,
That's all covered under Badger Care.
Okay, all right. What about dental?
Dental is covered under Badger Care also.
Really?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, see, that's what I love about this show. I'm always learning something. All right.
And sometimes sometimes dental can be difficult for foster parents because there's not a lot of dentists who take Badger Care.
Yes.
So that can be the difficult part for dental care, but there are dentists out there who take Badger Care, and that is all covered.
Okay. Well, and depending on the age of the child, I mean, dental care can be expensive. If you've got someone who's getting braces, for example, I mean, that's a big expense. I remember what it was when I was a kid, and, it was very expensive even then. I can barely imagine what it is today. But how old do you have to be a foster parent?
You need to be 21 years
Okay.
of age. And people between the ages of 18 and 21 can be licensed to care for a relative. But if they're going to care for a non-relative, be one of our general, regular foster homes, they need to be 21 years of age.
Okay. And once they're licensed, is there some training that's involved?
Absolutely. So before a foster family is licensed, they complete online pre-placement training.
Okay.
Once they complete that online pre-placement training and they're licensed, then my supervisor completes a face-to-face pre-placement training with them and goes through some of the things that they viewed online.
Okay.
And then they also then complete foundation training within the first year of licensure, which is 10 weeks for 3 hours, so 30 hours of training that they receive, which after completing foundation training, I think people have a really good understanding about foster care, the kids coming into foster care, and working with birth families. And I find that my foster parents, after completing foundation training, feel like they are definitely prepared for foster care.
Okay.
So it's a good training.
And then is there ongoing training?
There are ongoing training hours that foster parents need to complete.
Okay.
They need to complete 12 hours of training per year,
Okay.
and they need to complete 16 hours of training per year if they are a treatment foster home.
Explain what that is.
Our treatment foster homes, we have levels of care for foster care.
Okay.
Level 1 is relatives who are licensed to care for their relatives,
Their
whether
family
it's
member,
their family
whatever.
member, grandchild, niece, nephew. So they are licensed as level 1, and there are less of requirements that they need to complete if they're caring for a relative, for one of their family members. Then you have level 2 foster care is our general foster care, and kids, it can be any child that's coming into foster care that they will care for. Then we have what are called level 3 homes, which are treatment level homes, and they take children who have more significant behavioral issues, maybe some more significant mental health issues, or some more significant behavioral issues.
Okay.
So they have agreed to be licensed at that level and take in those kids, and then in addition do more training hours,
Okay.
so that they can meet the needs of those children.
Okay, good. How often does your department, check on families and homes to make sure that things are going well and that there's not something awry or whatever going on there that there shouldn't be going on?
In our foster homes,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So when a child is placed in foster care, it is a requirement of the social worker involved with the family to meet with that child in the home 1 time per month.
Okay.
And then if it is a treatment level home, then it's required 2 times per month that foster home and that child are seen. Now that is the standard. Many times those children are seen more often than that 1 time per month. And then as a coordinator, we also go into the home once a month, either with that social worker or outside of that worker. We're in there once a month, or whenever we need to be, in order to make sure things are going.
So how
well
many
at home.
foster homes do you guys have right now?
We have 93 foster homes right now.
Okay.
That includes our child-specific foster homes, people who are licensed for a specific child,
Okay.
and then our ongoing homes.
And how many people like you, who are foster care coordinators, how many people who go out and visit in the home, inspect the home, if you will, make sure that there's nothing nefarious going on?
There are 3 foster care coordinators.
Okay.
However, each child in foster care has a social worker who is assigned to them
Okay.
and their family. So there are many social workers who we have employed through Winnebago County and who work in child protection or in juvenile justice who are working with the foster homes.
Okay. I'm going to bring this question up because I know that there's probably someone out there saying, yeah, but. So I'm just going to bring it up. We hear horror stories. They're few and far between, but they're the ones we hear on the news all the time. Whether it's with someone's own child, whether it's a foster child, whether it's a stepchild, we hear about bad things happening. And a lot of times it's, okay, Department of Children's Services or Family Service has been notified. They've gone out and they've chosen not to do anything. Or the police have been out there before and they've chosen not to do anything. And lo and behold, all of a sudden something happens. And it's difficult for me to sit and watch things like that because no one wants to see anything happen to anybody, much less a child. who's innocent and can't really defend themselves or protect themselves. But by the same token, and I'm not making excuses, but departments like yours are strapped for people. They're strapped financially. There are only so many hours in a day. And with social services, too, there's only so many social workers, only so many hours in a day that they can attend to things. What provisions do you guys have to make sure that nothing can go wrong? And I say that knowing that we can't prevent every bad thing from happening. But I mean, how can you assure people? What could you say to them to reassure them that, look, you guys are doing the very best that you can for these children and for the parents caring for these children?
You know, unfortunately, what normally makes the news is when something bad happens.
Right.
And the news doesn't get all the great things that happen in our world.
And that's why I wanted to do this show, to talk about the good things that this offers, because those are the things that we hear about.
Right. So, unfortunately, there are people who have that stereotypical, view of what foster homes are like and what foster care is like, because that is what they've seen in the news. And, they don't get to hear and see all the great things that foster parents do for kids. And so, the county does their best in, seeing the kids regularly and meeting with the children and meeting with them separately and asking them how things are going. And so we really, do our best to make sure those things are not happening and getting out there and seeing the kids, because that's what is important, that those kids feel comfortable with their worker and feel comfortable with the people coming in, so that they can say if something maybe isn't going the way it should.
Well, and I think to our credit, to your credit, in this county, and I would safely say in most counties, most of the 72 counties across the state, we don't hear about bad things happening very often in Wisconsin. Where we hear about it is places like Florida, Texas, California. And I don't know if it's because they are so heavily populated or if they have so many more people in the system or what, but that's where we tend to hear about those things. And so I think it is really a credit to the things that we have in place in Wisconsin, that we're not making the news every other month or every other week, so thank you for doing what you guys do. When a child turns 18 and they start to, I don't know what you call it here, but age out of the system, what do you do, if anything, to make sure that that child, now turned adult, gets off to a good start in life, that they've got a place to go, a place to stay, maybe a job lined up? Do you follow up with the newly turned adult?
So when a child turns 18 and they're in foster care, they have been working for about 6 months with an independent living coordinator, and that independent living coordinator can work with them up until age 21 years of age. All of those services are voluntary, and at any time, if that young adult does not want those services from the independent living coordinator, that independent living coordinator is not required or does not have to meet with them. They can walk away at any time. The child can walk away at any time. However, when a child is 18 in the home, in foster care, if they have not graduated high school, we can fund that placement until they've graduated high school, so they don't have to leave that foster home on the day that they turn 18.
Okay.
Now, they may choose to leave the foster home when they turn 18, and that is their right. However, they can enter into a voluntary agreement with us that they stay in foster care until they graduate from high school.
Okay, excellent. And we're down to like about 9 minutes here. See, I told you guys this would go fast. Let's talk about, and I was hoping to get to some of these things that potential foster families should consider when thinking about adopting. If we don't get to that, we've been putting up, I believe, throughout the show, the county's website address. If you go there and go to the Human Services Department and look under foster care, they have a lot of the questions we've been answering and talking about tonight. They also have a very complete and specific list of questions of what you can think about and should be looking at and considering if you're looking at becoming a foster parent. Hopefully we can get to some of these, but if not, it's there and it's a wonderful resource. So I would encourage folks to use that. So Chantel, let's talk about you. How long have you been a foster parent?
We're coming up on our second year.
Okay. And what got you into this? Why did you decide to do this?
Well, I guess it was quite a long road, but it really all kind of came to a point when we met up with some friends that we hadn't seen for a while. And when I say we, it's my husband and I. And we got to talking and found out that they were foster parents, and were encouraged by them to go and look into it. And it was something that we really wanted to do for our family.
You have children of your own then?
I do.
Okay.
My husband and I have 4 biological children.
Okay.
We have 2 that we've adopted through the foster system. And at this point, we have 2 others that are living with us.
So you have 6?
We have 6 with the same last name, yes.
Wow. Okay. And then 2 others, or?
We have 2 others through the foster system at this point.
Okay, so there are 8 children in your home right now.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's more than a Brady Bunch family.
And we love it.
and God bless you for being able to do it. But that's just, I'm thinking about that, and that's a lot of kids, a lot of house that you have to have. Is there a limit on how many kids can be, how many foster children can be in a home? Or as long as they're financially sound to be able to care for them and they have the space?
There can only be 8 children being cared for at a time, including
Their own.
foster parents' biological children, correct?
So you've reached your limit, Chantel.
Yes, we have.
When licenses can only be issued up to 4 children,
Okay.
so you can never have more than 4 foster children in a home unless they would be a sibling. So you can add to that if there is a sibling.
It can kind of be layered then.
Correct. And
Okay.
then we can make an exception up to 9 children with siblings
Okay.
if we need to, but it's something the state grants for us. But we can do that where there'd be 9 children being cared for in the home.
Okay.
But it could never exceed that.
Okay. So since you've only been at this a short period of time, have you had any children who have been there and then moved on and either gone back to their biological families or have moved on to some other setting?
Yes, we've only had
Really?
three total cases, and one of the cases was a successful reunification.
Oh, good. That's good. And how does, well, 2 things, I guess. How does that make you feel when it's a successful reunification? I think I know the answer to that. But how is it, secondly, when you see a child leave, and since you've not had any foster kids for that long a period of time, that may not be the best question for you because you've had one leave and it's been a good thing, right?
Oh, it's bittersweet. I mean,
Yeah.
you take these children into your home, and they're your family. And so we were very sad to see him leave, but we were glad that the mother was able to take those steps forward and have her child back. Children belong with their parents.
And, I would imagine that you have to do some kind of mental preparedness to say, okay, this child is only going to be here for maybe a short period of time, maybe a number of years, but at some point this child's going to leave, just like your own children are going to leave at some point. So what do you do to kind of mentally prepare for the fact that this child may only be here for a year or 6 months or whatever?
I don't think you necessarily can do that. You take in these children, and I tell my own kids this. You pour as much love into them as you possibly can for the time that you have them, and it doesn't matter how much you'll see them later or how long they'll stay with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you have for the time that you have them.
Sure. And, boy, I'm still trying to think about 8 kids. When you put 8 kids together, I only had one brother, and we got along pretty well, but boy, when we scrapped, we scrapped. And how How did these kids come together initially? Did they hit it off right off the bat?
I guess every time it's different. When they first come into the home is actually kind of, it's probably very exciting. It's like a sleepover. That's how we portray it. You know, come in, we're having a sleepover, and we'll have fun, and this is your bed, and this is your room. But like any family, yeah, there are issues that'll come up, or that toy's mine, or, you know, you broke this, or you didn't ask first before you took my stuff. But you deal with that no differently than you would with your own children. You know, you make things right, you talk it through. They try to talk it through first, and if that doesn't work, then you come and get mom or any adult, and they'll help mediate through that.
Have you found it to be difficult, because these kids are coming from one situation with different rules and different expectations by the parents, and then something has happened that has fractured that parental-child relationship, at least temporarily, and then they're coming into your situation and probably different rules, different expectations. Is that a difficult thing to kind of help these kids bridge?
I guess no difficult than if you would have, you know, say a friend come over on a very base sense of it. You know, you let them know your rules, and you remind them of rules if, you know, an offense is made. But otherwise, you take each day as it comes, and you do work with the child, and I guess it's kind of hard to say. Some children really just kind of blend in, and they are very adaptable, and other times there are those difficulties, but you just work through them.
Okay. So what has the experience been like for you? Tell us, you know, how it has made you feel, or, you know, how has it been rewarding or a blessing for you and your family?
I don't know if I can even put that into words. We take these kids in, again, and we love them like family, and it's something that not just my husband and I do. We have children in the home, and they're a big part of that, of making them feel welcome, making them feel comfortable, making this their second home. So I guess at this point, we would love to continue to foster. I can't see us ever ending fostering now that we've started it. Seeing these kids heal and seeing these families reunited is amazing.
Okay, good. So no regrets?
No.
Okay, excellent. Respite care. We didn't have a chance to talk about that, and we've only got about 30 seconds. Respite care is addressed on the county's website, but just real briefly, can you tell us, Lisa, what respite care is and how it helps the parents?
Respite care is, we offer respite services to our foster parents and to the biological families that we work with. So sometimes in order for a child to stay in their home, we offer respite services so that the parents can have a break. And they come into one of our foster homes who are licensed, and so the parents know that we have looked into these homes, that we've done background checks. These are, you know, our regular ongoing foster homes, and sometimes we have homes that are just licensed for respite also, but they go through the same process of the foster home.
Okay.
So the child goes there for a weekend, for a week, sometimes a day, and gives the parents a break.
Okay.
And so sometimes there are families who can stay intact and not have the children removed because there are those respite services in place.
Okay, excellent. We're out of time. I told you that this hour would go by quickly, and in fact it has. So thank you very much to both of you for being here, and you know, God bless you for what you're doing. You know,
thank you for having us.
Both of you very much. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Again, if there are other questions that you have, maybe something that we didn't cover here, or you'd just like more information, please do go. If you're in Winnebago County, go to the Winnebago County website and look up the Department of Human Services, and there are phone numbers there, there are email addresses there. It really is a wealth of information. So thanks again to our guests, thanks to the crew. Thank you, as always, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.